I didn't want to get sober. I honestly wanted to get off of something else. But let's take it back to the beginning. So, I was born and raised just outside of Atlanta. I grew up in a couple of different places, but let's get past all that extra stuff. That doesn't matter right now. I think I had my first sip of alcohol, probably just like a sip of wine off of somebody's cup, probably when I was like, I want to say maybe 8, 9, 10, something like that. Nothing too crazy. It wasn't like from that moment I was like, oh my God, I need alcohol. But then when I became a preteen, we moved into an area. I don't know if it's John Alpharetta or Johns Creek, or I don't know what it is now. I haven't been back in so long that I started hanging out with like an older crowd, and I also started, yeah, so I started hanging out with an older crowd. And a part of the reason why is that I never felt like I fit in anywhere, right? So growing up, my mom made me read 30 minutes a day, which I'm so appreciative of as an adult. It helps me a lot with my diction. It helps me a lot with my conversations. It helps me feel confident when I step into any room. I'm able to speak, I'm able to talk, I'm able to articulate. But as a kid, when you move around a lot and you go from a place that may have a lot of black people, then to a place that might have a lot of white people, and then Hispanics, you just never feel like you quite fit in. So when I was in those formative years, I was called an Oreo. I wasn't black enough. All these things that really used to hurt my feelings because here I am, black, but yet I'm still not black enough for people who look like me in some of these areas. And so I just started hanging out with the wrong crowd, which helped me, in a sense, fit in or at least have some friends because that's all I really wanted. All I wanted was some friends. It just so happened that a lot of these people, and some of them who were older, were doing things that maybe a 12-year-old should not do, right? Um, and one of those things is drinking, smoking weed, um, cigarettes, black amounts. I remember the first time I tried to smoke, I was like puffing out, but I thought I was so cool, right? Because like here I am, I'm like, I remember somebody saying, like, girl, you look so crazy. Like, of course I do, but I wanted to be cool. I wanted to fit in so bad. Um, so and luckily my mom wasn't a drinker at all. My mom wasn't a drinker. My mom was actually, she passed away almost 10 years ago, but my mom was, she was just really cool, but she was a single mom with two girls. So she had to work a lot. And that was just the reality. She had to work a lot. There were a lot of things she had to do. Sometimes she would have to travel out the country. My mom was very well educated. And, you know, when you leave a teen up to their own devices, well, me, because I was just very rebellious and I craved attention, right? I wanted attention so bad. Um, Around that age, 12, I would have done anything to get attention. So sometimes my mom would have liquor in the cabinet. And I remember one time specifically, I don't know if it was the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals or what was going on. And excuse me, it's kind of hard doing my eyebrows with this. Like, it's my first YouTube video, guys. So, well, I guess I did like one or two in college, but that was some years ago. I'm not gonna say the number because y'all don't be guessing my age, but you could Google it and find out. Who knows? So I remember one time it was some type of sporting event, and I invited some people over, some of the gang. Now these people were around my age, right? And I remember going into like the upper cabinet where the alcohol was and getting some for my friends and I, because I was like, this is cool. We're gonna drink. I had to have been like 12 or 13. And one of my friends got so drunk, he fell into the bushes on the way out. Yes, he did. He fell into the bushes on the way out. And I just remember having so much fun with that. And then again, with me being a young girl hanging around, some of the older crowd, people drink. Some of these people were over 21, at least over 18. So drinking wasn't really too far fetched. And sometimes I would drink a beer or whatever. I don't remember being drunk or getting drunk though around that age. But I mean, it's possible. Sometimes my mind, especially back then or right now, it has like blocked a lot of that time out of my life for different reasons, different video. So where is, no one tells you, like, I'm kind of nervous making this video. It's kind of crazy. Shake off the nerves. Shake it off. Shake it off. Okay. That's a bit much. Let's make sure the mic is still on, honey. So, anywho, a lot of things happen between the ages of 12 and 16. That's a whole different video, like I was saying. So, I remember around like 14, I had tried marijuana for the first time, and I just freaked out. And when I say freaked out, I mean freaked out so bad, my mom had to take me to the hospital, and they had to do a blood test to see what was in my system. Oh no! Hold on, guys. Hold on. Not the mic. See, and I'm including all of this because I'm a low effort kind of gal. We gonna keep it all in. Oh, child, I hope y'all don't hear that. Whatever domestic stuff is happening in the background, I don't know what's going on. My name Bennett, and I ain't in it. But yeah, I was tweaking so hard. Like I thought I had been like laced with something. Because mind you, maybe I had drank before, but I had never gotten high before. Yeah, I went to the hospital. My mom took me to the hospital to get my blood tested, and there was nothing wrong with me. It was just marijuana in my system. And I knew from that day on that I would never touch weed again because it just wasn't my thing. I didn't like how it made me feel. I didn't like how I felt on it. I just didn't like anything about it. And I'm actually happy that happened because had I enjoyed marijuana, I might have ventured off into harder drugs earlier, right? And in Johns Creek, Alpharetta around that time, like there were so many people who I didn't even know were struggling with addiction at that time. So we're talking 2006, right? And there are so many of my classmates who have OD'd over the years from my high school in Alpharetta, Chattahoochee. Well, that's one of the high schools I went to. I think of one person in particular, Keon, because I had a lot of classes with him, and it still just breaks my heart. Dalton, that breaks my heart too. Yeah, there are some people who have passed. Sean, I think about them. I still do to this day. You know, alcoholism, addiction, it's a horrific disease, and it doesn't matter your socioeconomic, you know, where you are in life. It doesn't matter what you look like, what race you are. It doesn't matter anything. Like anybody can get addicted. But anyways, back to the story. So when I was, where was I? When I was 16, we moved to Gwinnett, and I was very happy to get out of Alpharetta for numerous amounts of reasons. Video for a different day. And because of that, again, my mom was working a lot. I'm older now. I'm 16, and I'm still hanging out with older crews, right? And at that age, what do you do for fun? You drink. So there were some times where, you know, I was left to my own devices for large amounts of time. And I remember having a neighbor, and the neighbor, he was of age. I think my neighbor might have been in his 30s. I don't know what he was on. I would never do this for a kid, but I don't know, different times. My neighbor, I would like get money up somehow, you know, and then my neighbor would go get the alcohol for me, for my friends, whatever. And that's really around the time that I started, where like I remember first getting drunk and being like, oh wow, like this is what it feels like this is so cool. Like I have friends, because I struggled in Gwinnett too, you know, trying to find my space and my place. I think at certain times I just wanted to be the cool kid. I never felt like the cool kid, and I wanted to be that. For what reason? I don't know. I think hopefully there are some people who can understand wanting to be a part of that crowd, you know, because I was kind of weird, a little misfit. I was super smart, but I acted dumb. I was one of them. I don't want people to know how smart I was. But I did have some friends, and if they're watching, they know who they are. And like sometimes it just depended the crowd I was around. Because sometimes I was around a crowd that I felt like fully accepted me, and we would have the time of our lives. And that's what I would remember, right? Please don't judge my eyebrows, please. I know I just messed up. We would have the time of our lives, honey. And then I would be around different crowds, and I'd be like, well, why did I do that? Why did I drink? I remember one time I was having a party at my house because, again, I was left to my own devices. I don't know how old I was. Maybe I was 17 or 18 at this point, but I grabbed some rollerblades and I skated around my house in the nude, completely in the nude. Mind you, drinking, people are there. You know, it's like multiple people are there. And I'm just like, again, kind of goes back to me wanting attention. What's the craziest thing I could do right now? Let's get it. I'm gonna get on my skates and I'm a rollerblade through the apartment in my skates, booty naked. So that's what I did. I did it. I had multiple parties. We went to parties, especially my senior year. We partied it up. And it wasn't all negative. There are some, like I said, there are great times. There are times where I drink with a certain group of my friends and we would just have a blast. And we would just be in the house wrestling. It's just like WWE, like, some really good times. I have some fond memories, right? But that's because of the people, not because of the alcohol. So, um, fast forward when I was 17, I decided in my senior year, I applied to go to Savannah State University. And the reason I decided I wanted to go there was because of a little trip I took. And I met a boy who was going to Savannah State University when I was 16 or 17. He knows who he is. And I actually thank him because had I not gone down to Savannah for school, I don't think I would be here right now, honestly. Everything in life happens for a reason. And I learned that. So I went down to Savannah State. I went down to Savannah State on a trip, spring break trip with my friend and her cousin, and was drinking and having fun. And I met that boy. And once he found out I was 16, he was not with it. But anywho, my senior year, I decided to applied to Savannah State and I got accepted. So I knew pretty early on that's where I was going to go for college. And then my senior year, for a long period, I essentially kind of lived alone. That sounds crazy. I'm not going to go into much detail, but it was just wild. People were running away, and they were running away and coming to stay at my house. So again, I'm a teenager with a lot of freedom doing whatever I wanted, you know? And there were times where I got exceptionally lonely. And mind you, this loneliness was something that I felt all my life. I've always kind of felt lonely, no matter how many people were in the room, no matter how many people I were around. I always kind of had this sense of loneliness, depression, whatever. And so I realized around that time that I started drinking to kind of hide that loneliness. And also, I learned around that time if you had alcohol, you had friends, right? Because everybody wanted to drink, but nobody was of age to drink, right? So if you had alcohol, you had friends. If you was going to the parties, if you knew the move, you had friends. And I put myself in some pretty bad situations because I was so young and green, right? I mean, I had some street smarts because different video for a different day. But, as a young woman, as a young girl, I'm 16 and I'm just, you don't know everything that you know. You think you know everything, but you don't. So I put myself in some pretty bad situations. But I realized I liked the way alcohol made me feel because it felt like whatever insecurities I had, whatever issues I might have been feeling, like it all went away. My anxiety gone. I wasn't worried about nothing but having fun. So, however, this is when the story gets real good because I'm crazy. Once I graduated high school, which I barely did that because not because of my grades, your girl is smart. I decided to get into a little ruffle and tussle, and they banned me from Gwinnett County schools for a year. And I got kicked out of school probably like 20 days before graduation. I thought I was smart. I was not. And so I didn't get to walk, but I started college early. And when I went to college, I said, I'm going to be a different person. I'm not going to be a party girl. I'm going to be a mute. And so you might be thinking that's like a joke, like me being a mute as a joke. No, I decided I wasn't going to speak at all. And my best friend in the whole wide world can attest to this because I met her my second day at summer school at Savannah State. And she will tell you I didn't speak. People had to speak to her in order to get a response. So I'll be sitting there like this, and they'd be like, "What's her name?" And my best friend would be like, "Oh, her name is Asha. She doesn't speak." Oh Lord, that was so crazy. Wow, that was so crazy. They say eyebrows can be sisters, not twins. So we're gonna leave it at that. So, anyways, I decided to turn over a new leaf. I wasn't drinking anymore. I wasn't doing anything because I just knew. Damn, I used the wrong concealer, but that's okay. I just knew what it was going to lead to. And then in my first few weeks at summer school at Savannah State, I met a boy who would become my boyfriend. And he was very religious, right? Very religious. And I knew, mind you, I had very low self esteem. I had serious abandonment issues. And I knew if I wanted to keep him, I felt like I had to conform to who he was, right? And so he was very religious. So I think after we started talking, dating, all that stuff, I decided to get saved. I wish I could play like a holy sound right now and there could be like a halo right here. It should be like, oh, yeah, I decided to get saved, honey. And I became a devout Christian for like 2 weeks. Anyways, that's besides the point. And I had stopped drinking because it was, I don't, I just wanted to be a new person. I wanted everybody to think I was a good girl and I was innocent. And because when you drink or when you've partied, it's almost like as a woman, your value goes down, right? Or that's how you're treated. You're treated as if you're less valuable than a woman who has who doesn't drink or who is very, I don't know what word I'm looking for, the word I'm looking for, but it's almost like you are treated differently. So I wanted to be treated with respect. I wanted to be treated like I mattered no matter what. And that was only going to happen if I I felt at that time if I acted a certain way. My bad, y'all. I forgot my palette. Had to go get that. Anywho, so while me and him are boyfriend and girlfriend, I decide to be this holier than thou person, not being true to myself. And eventually, the real you always shows up, no matter what. And that's eventually what wound up happening. The boyfriend I had, he was on the basketball team and he was older. So he was 21, I was 18. So there were some parties, there were some things that we both went to that I would drink at a little bit, but I wouldn't show my true colors, right? Because again, I'm not trying to reveal that if I party, I'm a party. I'm a really rock out. Like, we going bottle for bottle, shot for shot, and you probably not gonna make it, right? So, what was I gonna say? So I'm in this relationship literally for 3 months, and I'm suffocating him because I'm crazy. I'm like, he cannot leave me. He cannot. Like, this has to work. He has to be my man forever. No one's going to love me like he does. No one's going to protect me like he does. Like, this has to work, blah, blah, blah. And mind you, there was a lot of stuff because I was with him. I was younger. People who may have been in a sorority didn't like me. And I had an attitude at that. I still got that attitude. Like, if you're gonna do something, do something. Let's see what's up. Let's see who's gonna win. If you know, you know. So anywho, um, eventually after my suffocation, right? Because when I was supposed to move back onto campus for fall semester, I just moved into his room, right? Oh, I know my freshman year roommates was like, oh, she ain't never here, but they was probably happy. Shit, they had a free room. Excuse my language. So eventually, of course, the relationship ended. And I did not take it well at all. So, and the reason was when the breakup happened, and I'm tripping over my words, so please be kind. When the breakup happened, it wasn't like just a breakup. I felt all the abandonment that I had ever felt in my entire life. All the feelings of not being good enough. I felt that. I felt all of that when things ended. And I begged him to get back with me. And I begged him because I really, really, really loved him. Or I thought I did, or love. Well, I thought love was at 18. I really felt like he valued me more than what other people had when I was younger. And I just didn't want to lose that. But he was just not having it. And he had other stuff going on too, and I became a stalker. I was also like kind of stalking him. And I just have to admit to that. It was kind of bad. Everywhere I knew he was going to be, I was there. And mind you, Savannah State's a small campus, like 3 to 4,000 students. So it's not hard. And on top of that, he was on the basketball team. And on top of that, he was in a fraternity after a while. Like, I know where you're at. Woo. Okay, sorry. That was a little crazy. So, anywho, after the breakup, I didn't have any tools on how to handle it besides what I knew to do, which was drink and party. So, my best friend had her crew of people, and they were good people, but remember, we're all in college, right? So everybody is essentially having a good time, everybody's having fun, and no one knows at the time that, oh, this person is going to take it to another level, right? I took things to another level once I started partying. Like, once I really started partying, like, it was like I had never stopped. And a lot of things happened in college. I mean, I drank and I drank and I drank the worst of the drinks too. This wasn't no light drinking, right? We're talking Mad Dog 2020, Four Locos, E&J. I mean, bottom shelf, nasty, nasty alcohol. Ugh, I could, but of course, I'm not right now. I think I'm gonna do blue and then green, and then we'll fix it. So yeah, I just drank a lot, and it got to the point that like people were taking a whiff of me before I went to class. Like, I smelled like alcohol. And maybe, yeah, sometimes I did show up in my onesie and Timberland boots, but dang, like, you didn't catch me all the time doing the walk of shame. I don't know. Anyways, I was a raging party girl. I was using alcohol to numb my emotions. I made some choices to try and get back at my ex, which you know, just hurt me in the process, didn't hurt him at all. Um, and let's see. Along the way, my sophomore year of college, I got an apartment off campus, right? And this is the first time I'm kind of living somewhere with no structure, kind of, you know? And all I did my sophomore year of college, and I got some big student refunds, was drink. I barely went to class. And mind you, I had Hope Scholarship. I barely went to class. All I did was drink. To the point where I had no choice but at the end of my sophomore year, but to move back up to Atlanta. And some situations happened when I was back up in Atlanta, and my mom was battling breast cancer again. And I wound up essentially being homeless for a while and sleeping from here to here, couch to couch, wherever I could, you know? And it was just unfortunate, but again, it is what it is. Um, and along the way, I'm just partying. I'm partying through too until I ran out of money. I moved down to Zephyr Hills, Florida with my childhood best friend's mom. Stayed there for a while, then decided, okay, I need to get back to school. Like, I need to finish school. Like, what am I doing with my life? And when I tried to get back into school, they said, excuse me, ma'am, you failed your entire sophomore year besides weight training. He gave me a C in that. So I'm like, okay, but I have nowhere to go, you know? And I tried to appeal the decision. They denied it. I submitted another appeal. They denied that. And then I went and talked to the provost, and he was like, listen, there's nothing I can do. And I said, sir, I literally have nowhere to go. I will do whatever it is to get back in school. And he gave me stipulations. He said, you have to maintain a B or C average, go to therapy, and do some type of alcohol class. It wasn't AA, but some type of alcohol thing. And I was like, bet I could do that. So now I'm back in school. But again, I'm not thinking alcohol is my problem because I'm in college. Everybody drinks, everybody parties, you know? So I'm still partying, and I'm partying to the point where I remember one girl, and I love her, but you know, this really hurt my feelings when she told me that she couldn't hang out with me because of the stuff I was doing. Like I wasn't good enough to be her friend. And that hurt. That really hurt me to my core. But I mean, I get it. Birds of a flock together, and she didn't want to be known for all the stuff that I was doing while I was drunk. But stuff like that kind of put me into an even deeper drunken spiral. But by this point, I had a mission, and I'm in therapy. You know, free therapy through college, right? Too. And so, and I'm happy I started therapy because around this time, my mom was really going downhill. And going to therapy helped me so much in preparing for that. But I remember getting that call to come to Atlanta because my mom wasn't doing well. And I had a bottle of Crown Apple. I picked up my sister. Mind you, I'm driving from Savannah to Atlanta. I pick up my sister. We kill in the bottle. We drink in the bottle. And I get to my mom's house. I see what she looks like. I was not prepared. You know, cancer is a very ugly disease. And I ran out. I ran out. I was able to spend some days with my mom before she passed. And her hospice nurse told me she had a couple of weeks left. So I went back down to Savannah to get some things in order so I could spend some more time with her. And that Tuesday, I got a call from my mom's best friend saying that she had passed away. And around that time, I mean, everything was just kind of insane. I was living with some racist people. I was dealing with a much older guy, not much older. I was 22. I was dealing with a much older guy. And he was crazy. And what I didn't know at the time, he was on drugs. I was so green, I couldn't tell. He would be talking my head off for hours, and I could not tell that man was on drugs. Ain't that crazy? But anywho, so what do I know what to do? I was still doing good in school at this point. I had switched my major to online journalism because everything else I had tried was not gonna work. But I believed in myself in online journalism, and I had a professor who believed in me too, who was there for me, who became like a mother figure to me. You know, even though she's only like 7, 8 years older than me, she became like a mother figure to me, and I'm so grateful for her. But anyways, the partying continued. It got to the point, especially in downtown Savannah, like people knew who I was. I would go into this one bar called Bar. And there was a waitress in there, and she would know what I want. Pour me up some Jose Cuervo. Let's get to it. Let me drink the pain away. Let me drink the loneliness away. Let me drink the lack of self-confidence away, the low self-esteem. Just let me drink it all away. And that's what I did for years and years and years. Well, I was a super senior, so it did take me a while to graduate. Super senior. Let me correct that. So by the time around graduation, mind you, I never liked to do anything else. I never tried any other substance. I didn't like pills or anything. It would make me throw up immediately. Because of that experience with marijuana as a kid, I never wanted to try any type of other substance. But when I was 24, I was downtown, inebriated, hanging out with a group of people, great people, nothing wrong with them. And there was an after party. And I went to the after party, and there were some after party favors, that's what I'll call it, on the table. And I remember being so scared. Like, oh my God, you know? Like, I've never really seen this before. And I think it was offered to me. And like, mind you, I'm like in a group of people. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, like everybody else is okay. Like, maybe I should try this too. I don't know. I ultimately wound up trying it. Trying is nice. I wound up doing a lot of it that night. So much that somebody was like, stop! You're going to be up for weeks. And I remember the next day crying my eyes out and like, okay, I need to get into a rehab of some sort because this is crazy. Because even before I graduated college, I had another therapist and I asked him, do you think I'm an alcoholic? And he said, no, but you have the potential to be. And so I had done that alcohol class in college, and I went to one AA meeting in college, I believe. But all these women were in there. They were being so nice. They gave me their phone numbers, and I was like, I'm not like y'all. I'm 22. I'm still in college. This is still fun for me. But once after I had that party favor the first time, it kind of opened up a door and I wanted it again. So here I am, 24, about to graduate. And even though I'm graduating and I'm so happy I'm graduating, because remember, I didn't get to walk the stage for my high school graduation. I have this big hole because my mom passed away and she didn't get to see me do it. I remember one time my mom telling me, like, hey, don't take forever to graduate, girl, before she passed. Um, and so, and I was just young trying to navigate life. Thankfully, I got a job really quick out, once I graduated in my career field. I started as a beat reporter in Hinesville, Georgia, which is like a military town, like 30-45 minutes outside of Savannah. And again, my drinking is still a problem. My drinking and using at that point, but I'm trying to hide it. I'm trying to mask it as best I can. Um, and there would be times I would just, there was one time in particular I remember, due to an alcohol related incident, I didn't show up at work. No call, no show. And I had been traveling and there was a situation that happened and I just did not show up at work at all. And there were other things that happened. And again, I had gained so much weight. I mean, my face was so bloated. I was just so bloated because I was drinking so much and drinking so much juice and eating so much bad food. I'm also an emotional eater. So it was just all bad. And on top of that, I'm doing party favors too. So it's just like, now when I say I was doing party favors, I don't want to make it seem like I was doing party favors all the time. This wasn't like an every weekend thing. This was, but I could gradually see it, my want for it increasing, right? And after every time I did a party favor or did the party favors, I would feel so bad. I would feel so guilty. I would question, do I need to go to rehab? Because again, I know myself. I can see this progressing. I got, eventually, I left that job and I got a job that I had really wanted since college, um, in Savannah. And I was just on the outside, again, everything looked good. But on the inside, like, again, my drinking, it stopped being for fun and it became a situation where I needed it to function. So I was I had extreme anxiety, I had depression, but I'm medicating it with my alcohol use and the party favors. And then the consequences, although they weren't on paper, like I never got a DUI. I never went to jail or anything like that. I could have and should have. I'm not saying that to be cocky. I'm saying that despite not having consequences on paper, there were other things that were happening that were horrific, um, that I won't share in this video. I want to keep it on topic. And because I had tried that party favor at 24, it made me more open to a different type of party favor. And when I tried that party favor in particular, it made me understand addiction perfectly. Because when I felt that feeling from that other party favor and I had such a blast on that party favor for hours, and that come down was horrific, I realized in that moment why people want to stay high. I didn't want to come down and have to deal with my real life or deal with those emotions. I wanted to stay up there. I did. I didn't want to come down. And again, I think at this point, maybe some other people in my life had started to notice, like, hey, something's going on. I remember my dad specifically would call me at like 10 a.m. on like a weekend day, and I would be pissed. And I would take it out on him. I was so mean, and he didn't deserve that. But I think maybe it was his way of saying, like, hey, I can kind of see something's going on here. So once I turned 25, well, okay, so when I was 24, 25, COVID happened. And it was literally like a shock to the system for everybody. And I think everybody dealt with it differently. And me being by myself was just, I was always a social drinker. So I never really kept alcohol in the house. And I may not have been like an everyday hard drinker, but my drinking was definitely a problem. And I remember everything being shut down, and it was around my birthday. And I got like three of the biggest bottles. It was gifts of Jose Cuervo, which was my choice of drink. Jose Cuervo and Red Bull. And I remember having all of that. And I remember at a certain point, like giving it away because I'm like, yeah, this is like a problem, right? And at this point, I'm doing party favors. Stuff is just getting kind of intense and crazy. I remember one time I don't even know what it was. And I thought I was going to die. My heart was beating so fast. And stuff got bad. And at 25, 26, something happened. And at that point, I knew I really, really had to get sober because that situation would have never have happened had I not been drinking. I knew I needed help because the choices that I was making at that point was now not just affecting me, you know? Um, it was affecting other areas of my life. It was affecting my friendships. It was affecting my, it was just affecting everything. My money, it was affecting how I felt about myself. And yeah, so I had started to try to get sober on my own. I would say, I'm not drinking anymore. That's it. I would read self help books, the Four Agreements. I mean, any type of book you can think of. I was trying to read it, and I was determined to, yeah, I was on my own will. I was going to stop cold turkey. But every time I would do that, someone would call, oh, come out, or even me, I would have FOMO, real like fear of missing out. And I'd be like, okay, well, let me just go out and see what's going on. Or, you know, let me just change what I'm drinking, you know? So I'm just only going to drink Angry Orchid because I hated beer. So I was like, let me try this and maybe whatever. It's the same outcome, you know? Just a different way of getting there, honestly. And this cycle kind of went on for months and months and months where I would say I was giving it up, something bad would happen, and then I would feel so ashamed or guilty, and then I would pick up a drink. and try to numb it. And I remember at this time, I remember drinking and being like once I could feel it, I remember that feeling of I'm okay now. Like I can live now. Like I'm safe now, you know? And that was a problem. You know, some people can go out and have like one drink and be okay. I was not one of those people. I had to drink to get drunk. That was just my reality. And I remember being in a parking lot outside the hair store one time, and I was on the phone with my dad, who has worked in has done a lot in the sobriety field, helping young people, helping youth. Yeah. And I remember talking to him, and he asked me a question about a situation. And he said, "Hey, Asha, that sounds like this. Maybe you should go to AA." And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was God. I don't know if I was trying to try it my way. But for that one time, because mind you, I ain't listened to my daddy like that, y'all. I ain't listened to my dad. My dad had good advice many a times in my life that I refused to listen to because I had to show him I could do it my way. But that time, I decided to try it. Let me go back a little bit. Right before I decided to try it, right? But right before I decided to go to what would be technically my second AA meeting, I had a trip to Atlanta. Now I remember going to Atlanta and telling myself, hey, we're not going to do any party favors. It's okay if we drink, but we're not going to do any party favors. Unfortunately, I was around somebody, or fortunately, this young lady, I hope she's doing well. The person I was around had party favors. And I was with some people that I knew from high school. And once I started drinking, I wanted to do party favors. And but I had the people from high school around me, and I was like, I don't want to do this around them. I don't want to be judged, blah blah blah, whatever. So mind you, I wound up talking to, the people I knew from high school, and I was like, hey, because I had a hotel, I was like, hey, is it okay if I do these party favors around you? They're like, yeah, cool. And I remember being so embarrassed. On top of like, let me say something. Driving under, and I'm not, driving under the influence is horrible. It's absolutely horrible. It's a very selfish act. I'm ashamed to say that I've done it. I am. Driving under the influence in a big city like Atlanta is very different than driving under the influence in a small city like Savannah. You shouldn't drive under the influence at all. But the fact that I had drove over under the influence in Atlanta scared the crap out of me. And then the last time I drank ever at the age of 26, February 11th, 2021, I just remember feeling horrible. I remember drinking, trying to act like I was having a good time. I was not. I remember getting some of the crappiest, absolute crappiest party favor ever. And I remember being like, I went to an after party. Mind you, there are lots of people at this after party, and I remember thinking in that after party, if somebody had something stronger, I would do it to numb everything that I'm feeling. And yeah. And after that night, I just knew I was done. I knew I was done. I knew I didn't want to drink anymore. I didn't want to do party favors anymore. I was just done with the lifestyle. It had caused me so much pain that a majority of it I had brought on myself, right? I'm not blaming anyone or anything. And I decided to go to that AA meeting. And yeah, I went in like I was Darth Vader, hoodie up, angry at the world. And I really was like, I'm only gonna come so I could stop doing party favors. That's the only reason I went. I only went because of that. I did not want to stop anything else. I wanted to keep drinking, honestly. And one of my first meetings I went to, I there were some other young people who were freshly sober too. And I think one of them actually was a bartender. And we're still friends on Facebook to this day. Me and two other girls, actually. And there was a man named Lenny who unfortunately passed away, not from the disease. He passed away a sober man. But I remember a lot going to meetings and he was leading or his shares, and they really touched me. Um, and it was everybody was so nice and they wanted me to keep coming back. And I don't know what made me keep coming back. I don't know what moved out of my head of like, okay, like I don't want to do party favors anymore, but I want to keep drinking. But something changed. Honestly, I don't know what changed, but something in me changed too, you know? And sometimes you think, well, I thought at the time, because I was 26, about to be 27, I was like, well, alcohol is the problem. So when I get sober now, everything's great and I'm a great human being again. But no, the real work starts when you get sober. And boy, was that a ride. Because I thought life, I got sober. A lot of things happened after I got sober, but I'll save that for part two. Thank you for watching my very first YouTube video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you've dealt with similar things. Please put that in the comments. Share your story with me. Follow me on ashac.gilbert on Instagram. You can find my Facebook, Asha Gilbert. Yeah, search Asha Gilbert. You'll find it. ASHAGILBERT, same as the handle here on YouTube. And just thank you so much for walking. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.